The book comes out on Tuesday, and I'm just going to tell you right now, this is not my normal thing. You are watching me on MSNBC. I'm about to talk to someone from CNN, and what we are going to be talking about is Fox News. I do not do the cable news wars. This is not usually my thing. But I think this is important, and I have read the book, and I want you to know some of what is in it. As we head into the Republican convention and this president trying to get reelected, if you don't pay a lot of attention to Fox News, and particularly if you don't know some of what's in Brian Stelter's new book, what you're missing is a little bit of a Rosetta Stone for stuff about this presidency that doesn't otherwise make sense to normal humans. I'm just going to jump in here and show you what I mean. Quote, while the network gives the Trump administration a huge boost, it also creates tension within the White House. Trump's obsession with the opinion shows on Fox causes chaos when he latches onto impossible and downright illegal policy ideas. White House staffers watch Sean Hannity's show because they need to know what the boss is hearing and what mood he's going to be in. They try to get certain officials booked on certain shows with the knowledge that Trump can be easily manipulated by what he sees on the air. Hannity is just one member of this crazy cable news cabinet. While he deserved credit for getting longtime Fox News commentator John Bolton hired as national security advisor, Tucker Carlson got the credit when John Bolton eventually fell out of favor with Trump. The firing of Jeff Sessions? Jeanine Pirro was in Trump's ear for that one. The resignation of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen? Lou Dobbs was central in that. Pat Cipollone leading the president's legal team? Laura Ingraham was instrumental in that. But the average news consumer still doesn't understand just how wedded Fox and Trump are. The average voter doesn't know just how many of Trump's actions and inactions are dictated by the network. Frankly, the average political journalist doesn't watch Fox often enough to really get it either. Guilty as charged. Stelter says, quote, I frequently read stories by White House correspondents that describe unvetted White House hires and unhinged policy decisions and unglued tweets, but leave out the cause, Fox's influence. The decisions that most seriously damaged his presidency could arguably be traced to his TV habits. For example, as Media Matters has noted, Trump's hatred for Ukraine seems to have originated with Sean Hannity's show telling him that Hillary Clinton colluded with Ukraine in 2016. The end result for the president? Impeachment. When he threatened North Korea and said he had a bigger button than Kim Jong-un, it was because of a Fox segment about Kim's nuclear button. When he told Iran to never threaten the United States again, it was because of a Fox segment about Iran's saber rattling. Trump granted pardons because of Fox. He attacked Google because of Fox. He raged against migrant, quote, caravans because of Fox. He accused public servants of treason because of Fox. And he got the facts wrong again and again because of mistakes and misreporting by the network. When Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash, Trump sent condolences, but got the death toll wrong because of Fox. And then came the coronavirus. In Brian Stelter's new book, which is called HOAX, Donald Trump, Fox News, and the Dangerous Distortion of Truth. It's out on Tuesday. Stelter details some, to me, newly disturbing news about part of what has gone wrong in our nation's botched COVID response. Here's some more. He says, quote, there are dozens of reasons why the United States lagged so far behind other countries in preparations for the pandemic. Some are cultural, some are economic, some are political. But there's no doubt that one of the reasons is the Trump-Fox feedback loop. When the virus was silently spreading across the U.S., some of Fox's biggest stars denied and downplayed the threat posed by the virus. Trump echoed them, and they echoed back. The thing that's going to end this is the warmer weather, Fox personality Greg Gutfeld said on February 24th. Thank God for global warming, co-host Jesse Waters wisecracked. It's going to disappear, Trump said on February 27th. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear. Most Americans knew that Trump was untrustworthy, but the Fox base still trusted him. They also trusted Mr. Hannity, who dismissed coronavirus hysteria. They also trusted Laura Ingraham, who called Democrats the pandemic party, and also Waters, who said, quote, I'm not afraid of the coronavirus, and no one else should be that afraid either. Fox's long-tenured medical analyst, Dr. Mark Siegel, told Hannity on March 6th, quote, at worst case scenario, it could be the flu. Quote, this was shockingly irresponsible stuff, and Fox executives knew it, because by the beginning of March, they were taking precautions that belied Siegel's just the flu statement. the network canceled a big event for hundreds of advertisers, instituted deep cleanings of the office, and began to put a work-from-home regime in place. Yet Fox's stars kept sending mixed messages to millions of viewers. This went on and on until March 13th, when Fox and Friends co-host Ainsley Earhardt claimed it's actually the safest time to fly. And guest Jerry Falwell Jr. said people were overreacting to the virus. As ICU admissions surged and the death toll rose, Fox's most vociferous critics said the network had blood on its hands. 4 out of 5 Fox viewers were over the age of 55 and the demographic most at risk. Fox staffers privately admitted that the "don't worry" tone of the talking heads was harmful. Plus, Fox's coverage had spillover effects because of the network's influence in the Trump White House and throughout the federal government. It's impossible to know how many Americans died. It's impossible to know how many Americans who died as a result of COVID would have survived if the government had acted more swiftly in February and March. But it's obvious that Fox's fingerprints were all over the government's response. Quote, hazardous to our viewers, dangerous, unforgivable. Those are some of the words Fox News staffers used to describe the network's early coverage of the pandemic in the U.S. As hospitals in New York City filled up with acutely sick patients, a new conspiracy theory was hatched. Lunatics claimed that the hospitals were actually empty, and they stalked the entrances and parking lots with their cell phone cameras to come up with proof. Look, they said, there aren't many cars in the parking lot. One doctor at hard-hit Elmhurst Hospital in Queens heard this secondhand. They think the hospital is empty, she said, positively stunned. The doctor wondered, where are they getting this stuff? The answer, in part, was Fox. The network often mainstreamed ideas from the far-right fringe, and that's exactly what contributor Sarah Carter did on March 29th during a segment on a Sunday night Fox talk show. Quote, you can see it on Twitter, she said. People are saying, film your hospital. People are driving by their hospitals, and they're not seeing, and the ones I'm seeing, they're not seeing anybody in the parking lots. They're not seeing anybody drive up, so people are wondering what's going on inside the hospital. On February 10th, Trump told Trish Regan, the 8 p.m. host on Fox Business, that he believed China would have it under control fairly soon. You know, in April, supposedly it dies with the hotter weather, and that's a beautiful date to look forward to. Stelter says, quote, in the pantheon of infamous presidential falsehoods, in April, supposedly it dies with the hotter weather, may be the saddest in history. If the virus had actually faded away in April, hundreds of thousands of people around the world might still be alive today. But Trump repeated his fantasy in a phone call to Geraldo Rivera February 13. He said, quote, we think and we hope, based on all signs, that the problem goes away in April because heat kills this virus. We think. He said, quote, it's a problem in China, but it hasn't been spreading very much. His friends at Fox indulged this. Trump talked like the threat had passed when he had merely closed the side door of the House while leaving all the other doors and windows wide open. Why? Perhaps because he was busy with his post-impeachment purge. He put Richard Grenell, former Fox commentator turned ambassador to Germany, in charge of the government spy agencies. He welcomed back his surrogate daughter, Hope Hicks, who was bored of her job running PR at Fox Corporation and missed her family on the East Coast. She made a 360-degree spin through the revolving door, going from Trump to Fox and back to Trump. All this occurred in mid and late February when different strains of the virus were spreading fast in Washington State, California, and New York. Quote, hundreds of Americans were sick and didn't even know it yet because U.S. agencies were only testing a few dozen people a day. The president and his favorite channel were telling them not to worry. I mean, it turns your stomach to read that and to relive some of that, right? When we are here at over 176,000 deaths in this country. And again, I don't do cable news wars, and I'm not trying to pick a sort of internecine fight. But the thing that Brian Stelter reports in his new book that is maybe the most galling, that makes you want to tear all your hair out, is maybe even worse than that. And that's next. Stay with us.